How many intros have I done where I just did that? Anyways, for the past 3 videos, I've asked you guys to guess what type of candy I was munching on whenever I'd shake the box of it near my mic. But I finished the candy, so no box to do that with. And one of y'all finally guessed the candy right. It was lemon heads. Yep. So if you just spam lemon heads in the comments, I'll part it. And yeah. There you go. There's your word for the day. Anywho, we're watching another Reggie video. It's been a while since I've watched the Reg Meister, and we're watching every 5 seconds a snail tries to kill me. Lovely. It's literally the meme thing of I don't remember the entire format of it, but basically snail is constantly after you, and if it touches you, you just die. Yeah. Or at least I assume that's the direction this is going. Yeah. Regardless, we're gonna jump right into this. So make sure you check out the original in the description below and all that, and don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. And without further ado, let's jump into the video now, shall we?
In this town, everyone's running from something. A dead-end job that crushes their soul 8 hours at a time. A broken relationship that screams louder than it listens.
Well, I don't have that. I have the previous one, though.
Or
well, actually, I don't, because it's only 6 hours, but it's still soul-crushing, and it makes me want to smash my head against the wall. Yeah.
An addiction to drinking perfume just to feel alive. But me, I'm trying to escape something much different. I'm trying to escape an army of killer snails. Oh, and because today we're
it's an army of them. It isn't just one. Okay. I thought it was, that makes sense, yeah.
Shadows of Doubt, a procedurally generated detective game about solving crimes. But for each in-game minute that passes, an invincible snail will spawn onto the map and begin
hunting. And it's invincible too? You can't just get a car and run it over? Of course.
Hunting us. If it touches us, we die. And in case you're wondering, a minute of in-game time.
Yep, that's literally the thing. Yep.
Is about 5 or 6 seconds, meaning that after an hour, we could have 600 homicidal snails stalking us through the streets. They cannot be bargained with. They feel no pity, no remorse, no fear, and above all else, they absolutely will not stop until we are dead.
Well, why would they? It's a snail.
Our only way to escape this nightmarish reality...
It's Gary's underlings, that's what it is, yeah. He's getting hunted by Gary's underlings. It's the cult of Gary. It's his cultist followers.
...is to become a productive member of the Chinese Communist Party, because by solving crimes, we can increase our social credit to level 5, at which point we will have the option to retire.
What the hell was that?
We can increase our social credit to level 5, at which...
Is that supposed to be Asian Trump? Oh my god. This is how you know he and Xi Jinping did, like, goddamn Dragon Ball Fusion dance thingy or whatever, yeah.
At which point, we will have the option to retire and leave this cursed city once and for all.
Nice.
So, can we escape the snail apocalypse? Or will we fall victim to ungodly horrors beyond our comprehension? There's only one way to know. But first, I have to tell you something. 5 years ago, I was in my basement apartment attempting to teach my wife how to get sturdy, when suddenly she turned to ash before my very eyes.
Oh.
After collecting her remains in a dustpan, I went to the hospital so the doctors could determine the cause of this horrific disaster. Following several hours...
He's snorting the ashes. Oh my god. You know what? There's definitely some druggies who would absolutely have that done with, like, their homies, because everybody, like, yeah, they would have wanted it this way.
Of analysis, the physician looked me straight in the eyes and said, "This lady done got turned to dust because she had a deficiency of 3D real-time strategy role-playing games with built-in factory automation systems." God damn it. If only she knew about the sponsor of today's video, Arknights Enfield. This is a brand new RPG featuring dynamic team-based combat.
I still haven't tried this out. I kind of want to, and I just might now.
Cinematic storytelling, and several breathtaking environments to explore, ranging from the future...
But at the same time, I already play 3 gachas. I already play Star Rails, Endless, and Woo-Wah. And, I don't know how much of a drag playing this will put on my wallet. I just got E2 Sparksy. I don't know if I want to go further. And I also got the new Zenless character, quite easily. Got both her and her engine, on literally 20 pity. I guess they really wanted me to have Arya, yeah. So yeah, that was the thing.
futuristic Valley 4 to the oriental town of Wuling. But let's get straight to the good stuff. 3 words: automated industrial complex. In this game, you can establish a power grid, extract resources, manage your logistics, and develop complex production pipelines to manufacture helpful equipment and technology for your missions. I'm not going to lie, I love automation games. In fact, every time I hear the word efficiency, I slam my hands up and down on my desk over and over while making monkey noises. This is purely
enthusiastic monkey noises? I don't know. But if I had to guess, I imagine Factorio players absolutely love this game. Maybe.
An involuntary reaction. Point is, Arknight's Enfield makes my brain go... and I like that very much. This game features a wide variety of characters, and personally, my favorite is Da Pan, because one of his main techniques is beating people into unconsciousness with a gigantic Chinese frying pan. Objectively, the best character. Now listen, Arknight's Enfield is free to play on PS5, PC, and mobile, and I implore you to use the link in the description to download the game today. Please, do it before it's too late. Thank you, Arknight's Enfield. Now, back to the video. Before we begin, I'm going to explain the structure of this challenge. The snail apocalypse is divided into 3 distinct phases. The spawning phase, the empowering phase, and finally, the kaiju phase.
Oh, good God. That's... Alright, so I'm assuming at first they can't really do much, but they still just insta-kill you the moment they touch you. Whenever they get powered up, I imagine they can break down doors. That's my guess. And then kaiju... well, I mean, it speaks for itself, doesn't it?
From one phase to another, we have to solve a murder. And specifically, we have to solve the murder as fast as possible because each of these phases are time-sensitive. Given that, this won't be your typical slow-paced crime-solving video.
Alright.
I will be sprinting...
Alright, so, well, that's good to know, so we're not going to spend 9 hours getting through a singular chapter of Danganronpa. I gotcha.
Everywhere.
Because I've been doing that a few times.
Will be taking massive leaps of logic, evidence will be fabricated, innocent people are going to die, and I just might do a little heroin while I'm at it. With that out of the way, let us begin. We load into the city, midnight, January 3rd. Our first snail nemesis is already upon us. For the time being, we can easily ignore him. But that peace of mind won't last for long. In order to escape, we'll need to solve...
They directly spawn under his bed? Does a new one spawn, like... what is the time interval? I mean, it says every 5 seconds, but... I imagine that just means that... It just says that just because they're constantly after them. I just want to know the spawn interval of them, because that's... Well, that helps a bit more, I guess. And I'm assuming, and based off of that, I'm making the assumption that they spawn close to him as well, which that's not good.
3 murders, but unfortunately, no one's dead yet. So I decide to spend some time preparing. Our first order of business is to acquire the essential items for performing home invasions. This alone should inform you about my philosophy on detective work. Regrettably, that used up all of our money, but as the saying goes, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to perform brutal home invasions and you feed him for a lifetime. So I began searching the nearby apartment complex for easy targets to make some cash. After finding one, I break in, knock the first tenant out with a tea kettle, and shatter his wife's legs with a fire extinguisher. Consider this a valuable lesson on the dangers of leaving a spare key under your doormat. I spent about...
Yeah, let's not do that, no.
20 minutes ransacking the apartment for a total of $200 before escaping out the bedroom window. By this point, there's around 25 snails slimy...
Did he hurt himself? Hold on.
Escaping out the...
Yep, he did. He's bleeding now.
Bedroom window. By this point...
Which makes sense, because he just punched glass.
There's around 25 snails sliming their way through the streets. Not a huge issue, but definitely noticeable. Fortunately, our spree of wanton violence...
definitely noticeable. You got a few of these, slinking around, I guess. I don't know.
Violence appears to have manifested the death of an innocent man, because a murder case was just reported on the radio. The sooner we solve this, the sooner we can exit the spawning phase. So we head straight for the crime scene at Primal Pharmaceuticals. Arriving there, I can see the security shutters have been drawn. No access. So I slip into a ventilation shaft and begin worming my way toward the crime scene, eventually dropping down into some kind of storage closet where we hide until the police leave. Now, it's time to get get to work. First priority, avoid being shot to death by ceiling-mounted machine guns. After disabling the security system...
Ceiling-mounted machine guns? Yeah, can I have one? Where can I get one? Is there a place nearby where I can probably get one? Yes, no, maybe so.
We're free to explore the area. It doesn't take long to find the victim. One Paulo Baltazar, an employee here, shot dead with a hunting rifle between 7:45 and 9 p.m. last night. Upon closer inspection, we find a bullet impact point and also a hole in the nearby window. Based on this, we're likely dealing with a sniper. These can be difficult because they leave window. Based on this, we're likely dealing with a sniper.
Someone's a simp.
These can be difficult because they leave very little evidence at the scene of the crime. However, by approximating the bullet trajectory, we can deduce that the shooter must have been firing from across the street in Hodge Projects on either the 6th or 7th floor. So it's time to go pay them a visit. This is easier said than done, because by the time we decide to leave, there are at least 40 snails creeping up the staircase toward us, with dozens more entering the building each minute. So we take the elevator down to floor 1 and dive headfirst into a dumpster full of scrap metal. That might seem like an unnecessarily painful shortcut, but jumping out of windows is something we're going to have to become well acquainted with as the Snail Armageddon intensifies.
Yeah, I bet, because, you know, that's a lot of snails, man. It's quite a lot of them.
Arriving at Hodge Projects, I begin surveying the 6th floor for evidence. That sounds professional. In reality, it was a lot closer to a crystal meth addict pillaging apartments for drug money. In fact, the first unit I tried to break into caused me to accidentally phase through the wall into their bathroom, which upset the tenants greatly, and resulted in me spending 5 minutes getting beat by lesbians in the shower. Eventually, the melee spilled into the kitchen, where one of them tried to stab me, missed, and stabbed their partner instead. At this point, it's a free-for-all, until I smash a peanut jar over one of their heads to end the...
Well, they were gonna hurt each other eventually.
Bloodshed once and for all.
Better to just speed it up, I guess.
Unfortunately, after searching their apartment, the only crime I found evidence of was an abusive relationship. So I uncuffed them and moved on to the next unit. This is where things became very interesting. Arriving at apartment 601, I kicked the door in, knocking out the first tenant before running inside and using the kitchen door to knock out her husband. Truly, some of my finest detective work.
I guess so.
After that, it didn't take long to find the evidence we were looking for. A hunting rifle in the bathroom, clearly in the middle of washing the fingerprints off it. But we got here too fast, and the prints match up to the wife, Leah Christensen. This is a very strong start, but if we get this case wrong, the challenge is over. So we have to be 100% sure. Searching the apartment, we find no bullet casings, but there are some highly suspicious discoveries. A note to Leah's mother describing picking up some extra work on the side, perhaps as a paid assassin.
Probably. Seems reasonable, I guess.
An email about pest control services, possibly a coded message. And as we're exploring, she receives a phone call that hangs up immediately once we answer it. Potentially a client checking to confirm the hit was completed. Most of this is what we could call circumstantial evidence. Things which do not directly prove her guilt, but which, with the application of reason, could imply it. It's all very frustrating, so I make sure to knock her out a few times for inconveniencing us. I want to investigate further, but
I might as well, why not? You're making this harder for me, fuck you. Throws a apple at her, or whatever you threw at her, I don't know.
But the snails have reached the 6th floor, and if we wait much longer, they'll have us cornered. At which point, I don't like our odds of jumping out the window. So instead, we head down to the 1st floor and gracefully make our exit. It's now time to investigate the victim.
And just, of course, we use the evidence that's probably need to lock up or something and just throw it out the window, and probably didn't pick it up either.
Infiltrating her apartment was comparatively easy, since, you know, she's dead. And after doing some investigating, we discovered that our victim was being stalked by an average-height female. This fits the description of our suspect perfectly. The note says she was being followed yesterday at a fast food restaurant called Glutton Grub. So all we need to do now is go there, show a photo of our suspect to the staff, and if they can identify her, that will establish a solid link between our victim and the suspect. At which point, we'll turn in the case. The only problem is the United Snail Army has
Jesus
assembled outside of Glutton Grub, and they formed a blockade to prevent our entry. So our only way to gain access was to violently hurl a garbage can through the restaurant window. Unfortunately, this angered the staff, and we had to spend 15 minutes
evidently so. It usually would.
In a nearby park as the general manager tried to kill us with a framing hammer. After he cooled off, we climbed through the window and began asking around about the suspect. But to my dismay, no one saw her in this restaurant at that time, which goes against our stalking theory. Additionally, by this point, we're dealing with about 250 snails, which presents us with 3...
Oh, hey, she could have just been the killer that was, and she could have just been an assassin that was paid for by someone else who was an average height female.
Major problems. First, our risk of touching a snail and dying has become fairly high. Now, technically, that wouldn't end the run, but in practice, it might. Because by the time we wake up at the hospital, the snails could be waiting for us, effectively soft-locking our run as they spawn camp us over and over again. Second issue, our frame rate is being absolutely demolished by the sheer volume of calculations required to monitor this many snails.
Yeah, I might wanna take a couple of them off, so, you know, you can actually try this challenge.
And the last issue is that over time, the snails are slowly coagulating into one giant death ball. Theoretically, this is good, because it's easier to deal with one big snail rather than 200 small ones. However, the death ball appears to be...
easier to spot... Well, hello, missing, though. I forgot what I was talking about, because I had to pause the recording, because it's the dog, and then Jerry and Azu were posting memes about the new Pokemon starters, and praying that the fire-type starter isn't going to stand up, because they're just like, because, you know, the Rule 34 are just going to have a good time, and I'm like, it doesn't matter if it stands up or not. I know how the Pokemon Rule 34 artists act. Whether it stands or not, they're going to loot the doggo regardless, and that scares me. And apparently some already have, and I'm just like, yep, doesn't surprise me. I know the song and dance, and I hate it. Oh, now I remember what I was talking about. Yeah, it's snails. They're getting bigger, and I'm like, yeah, it's probably be easy. It's better to have bigger snails that so you can actually know where they are compared to like a bunch of small ones where they can just be hiding and just, you know, sneak your ass out of nowhere. Yeah. Anyways, let's get back into this.
Exerting some kind of domain expansion upon its surroundings.
Oh, is that what
because if we get too close to it, our screen gets all pixelated, and sometimes it blinds us completely. Even light itself cannot escape the event horizon of the Gestalt snail, which is incredibly disorienting. Needless to say, we need to solve this case before these problems get any worse. Desperate times call for desperate measures, so I'm going to execute the quintessential detective maneuver when faced with limited evidence. I'm going to bluff my ass off.
Alright.
Returning to the suspect's apartment, we find she escaped her handcuffs, so I grab a dumbbell and knock her out while she's brushing her teeth. Now it's time to confront her directly and accuse her of murder. 90% of the time, when you do this to the actual murderer, they'll confess. However, when we confronted Leia, she responded with an incredulous and dismissive, "Yeah, right." What do you mean, yeah, right? We've got the gun. You're gonna fry for this. I'm not gonna lie, the confidence with which she delivered that line shook me to my very core. Could we have the wrong person? Confirmation bias is defined as the psychological tendency to search for, interpret, or favor information in a way that aligns with one's pre-existing beliefs or hypotheses. A note to Leia's mother describing picking up some extra work on the side. An email about pest control services. Phone call that hangs up immediately once we answer it. Dear God, I think we've subjected an innocent woman to several hours of interrogation and having all of her teeth knocked out simply because I don't know how to do trigonometry and she picked a bad time to practice firearm maintenance. I believe we've got the wrong person. So I got to work investigating the other apartments, which is when I came across Unit 701. At first glance, it's nothing out of the ordinary, but the more I looked, the weirder it got. For example, a human skull in the master bedroom, a receipt for a hunting rifle time-stamped 1 hour before the murder, a noise complaint regarding several popping sounds.
Yep, alright, I think we found our real suspect here.
Some vaguely schizophrenic notes, and lastly, a list of potential victims, which disturbingly enough, appears to include us. The final piece of evidence came when we found a receipt for glutton.
That said, just, yeah.
Grub, the place where our victim was being stalked. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we found our killer. Or should I say, our killer found us. Because while I was snooping on her computer, her husband came home and attacked us with a box cutter. Eventually, we were able to knock him out with an office chair. And 5 minutes after that, she showed up as well. For posterity, the office chair...
And she just what? Okay, hold on, I'm gonna come back to that.
And 5 minutes after that, she showed up as well. For
shows up, sees her husband handcuffed on the ground on his knees, just comes in all nonchalant like nothing happened. Okay. Gotta love this video game logic, man.
The office chair box cutter matchup is about even. However, the office chair...
So that's what... Okay.
Even. However, the office chair hunting rifle matchup is absolute dog shit. It was only by sheer luck that we managed to subdue her, at which point we got the murder weapon and she admitted everything. In case you're wondering about the motive, I'm about 99% sure she's just an unmedicated paranoid schizophrenic. This is terrific, but less terrific is the fact that the snails have us completely trapped in the apartment. I try getting around them, but with each passing second, more are converging on our position, and it's starting to blind us. I frantically check the windows for potential escape routes, but on the 7th floor, it's not looking good. At this point, I believe all hope is lost, until I spot it. A ventilation shaft in the kitchen closet. I climb in, and we begin making our escape. The time is 6:30, which implies
it's probably got to be like one of the craziest things to see. You see a guy here that's investigating a murder and arrest you and everything, and then whenever he's about to leave, a bunch of snails pop through, and he's leaving through a vent. Not in that particular order, but still.
About 400 snails.
Definitely got to be... It's got to be quite the sight to see, I guess.
Snails are coming to kill us. Luckily for them, they won't have to try very hard, because we tanked about 4 hunting rifle shots to the chest, and we're quickly turning this ventilation shaft into a slip and slide. In desperation, we make our exit into the kitchen of a downstairs apartment. Imagine, if you will, it's 7 a.m., you're in your kitchen making a nice breakfast before heading to work, when suddenly a blood-soaked maniac falls through your ceiling and begins frantically darting around the room, screaming about killer snails. In that situation, if you're doing anything...
Honestly, that's probably just a normal encounter with a meth head in California or something.
Less than killing him with a frying pan, you have miscalculated your response. So I can hardly feel upset when that's exactly what this guy did to us. We're unconscious. This is very bad. Fortunately, the hospital is on the other end of town. Therefore, by the time we wake up an hour later, the snails are infiltrating the building, but they haven't yet made it up to our room. So we jump out of bed, launch a fire extinguisher through the window, and finalize our escape. Doubling back to City Hall, we grab a murder resolution form and
the frame rates are just not getting better.
Submit it as the snails close in from every angle. After a few minutes of processing, the results come back, and we've officially solved our first murder, thereby exiting the spawning phase of the challenge with a total of 500 snails on the map. This earns us enough good boy points to reach social credit level 2. Not bad at all.
Lovely.
With that taken care of, we've probably got about 12 to 18 hours until the next murder occurs. So what do we do now? Well, in order to reach level 5 and retire, we need 2,000 social credit. Solving 3 murder cases will get us to about 1,500, which means we need to make up the last 500 by doing community service. This could be anything ranging from finding a lost item to melting off a woman's face with a cup of coffee, and everything in between. So let's get to work. After perusing the job listings, I come across one well suited to our talents. Demolition for reliable individual. I call the number, and the guy tells me he wants us to trash his friend's apartment as a prank. Looking
hell yeah, brother! You don't even gotta pay me for that. I'll do that for fun.
Through my inventory full of handcuffs, pepperball grenades, and loaded guns, I assure him this will be very funny. He gives us some basic intel on our target, but most importantly, their names start.
That's a Reddit mod.
Funny. He gives us some basic intel on our target.
All right.
But most importantly, their name starts with the letter A, and they live on basement level 1 of Lovelace View. So that's our first stop. Sneaking into the building's security office, we use a code breaker to force entry into the computer and access the resident database. After a quick search, we come back with 2 people living in the basement who fit the description. But one of them is on basement level 2, so we ignore him and focus instead on Allele Hawkins. Heading down to his apartment, I get to work. Allele is not home, but his boyfriend is. So the first masterstroke of this prank is going to be blinding his lover with a flashbang and then locking him in the bathroom. Now when Allele comes home, not only will he find his apartment completely ruined, but his gay lover will be having a panic attack while handcuffed to the toilet bowl. This is the essence of modern pranks. Our goal is to cause $700 worth of damages, but there's one major
only $700, bro. That rookie numbers, you gotta up them numbers, man.
Problem. This place is a fucking dump, and I don't think there's even $700 worth of things in
we can still make it.
here. On top of that, we're quickly getting boxed in by the snails, so I decide it's time to leave and spend a few hours eating fried chicken and chain-smoking cigarettes on the other side of town. This gave us enough time to formulate a plan on how to properly destroy this man's apartment. First, we grab a garbage bag from a nearby alley and take it to his apartment. Then we begin throwing it around like a battered wife, coating the entire apartment with garbage juice and random detritus. Living room walls, ruined.
Don't forget to get some... Don't forget to get some on the boyfriend, too, because it'll just be funny that way.
Bathroom shower full of dirty needles. And gay boyfriend covered in garbage oil. This is a good start, but we need to go even further. I punch a hole through his shower and start bleeding profusely. Then I go roll around in his bed.
And we're leaving evidence behind of our... Well, the dude can already attest to that, but still.
Covering the sheets in my blood, before producing 3 pounds of raw beef, which I throw at the walls and then eat. This gets me exceptionally nauseous, and I fill his toilet bowl full of vomit. For my final move, I take his grandfather's urn full of ashes and smash it against the ceiling. I exercise the upper limits of raw.
What is it? What the hell? Jesus Christ. This is definitely something new.
But to my dismay, it says we still haven't done enough damage, which is when I realized something truly embarrassing. When I was determining our target, I ruled this guy out because he lived on basement floor 2 instead of basement floor 1. But it turns out there is no basement floor 2. These are apartment numbers, and we've got the...
Whoopsie doodle, made a fucky wucky. Yeah, it'll be fine.
Wrong guy. In a just world, I would be sent to a labor camp and my family would be shot for what I've just done. But in the dystopian world of Shadows of Doubt, no one really cares. In fact, our social credit hasn't even budged. So it's up to us to make this right and restore our karmic equilibrium. I decided...
By doing absolutely nothing. At least that's what I'll be like, huh. Yeah, sorry buddy, I got the wrong apartment. This was meant for someone else. So, bye. And just leave it like that. But hey, don't worry. He'll be rest assured to know that this place will at least have some use. Specifically being a warm-up for the real place that's getting trashed.
The best way to achieve that was to entomb the gay guy in a pile of cardboard boxes, turn the lights off, and leave. That seemed about even Steven to me. Heading over to the correct apartment, we quickly make a $700 mess and then turn the case in for 250 social credit. Another job well done. This leaves us just enough time to get one more job done before the next murder happens. Based on our exemplary performance on the last mission, I decided to accept a contract for corporate espionage. Our target is the head of HR, and our client was caught jerking off in the photocopier at work. So he needs us to track down the target and make those HR reports disappear. At this point, all we know about our target is his phone number, but that's more than enough. First, we have to break into an apartment complex with absolutely dog-shit security, and I know just the spot. Arriving at Lovelace View, we break into the first apartment we find and use their phone to call the target. No one answers, but that doesn't matter. Now, we slip into the basement and find a telephone router. In most apartments, these are protected by laser tripwire systems and automated gun turrets.
But as he said earlier, the security here is dog shit.
However, in this dump, it's being guarded by a AA battery battery and an eraser, so we have no problem breaking it open and accessing the call logs. Using this, we track the call we just made and determine it went to Unit 402. I waste no time kicking the door off its hinges and pilfering the apartment in search of the HR documents. Unfortunately, they're not here, but we've got the next best thing, our target's name and his place of work. So it's time to go pay him a visit. Arriving at Zeng Terrace and Associates, I find a receptionist who, despite typing frantically, is clearly not doing anything. So I offer him $30 for a guest pass to the office. Following that, we wait until everyone goes on lunch break and start searching for the documents. After 5 minutes of looking, we find the files, stuff them down our underwear, and make our escape. Then, per instruction, we leave them in a dead drop for our client and let him know the job is done. This puts us very close to social credit level 4. 2 more murder cases and we're out of here. We've still got 10 hours to kill until the next case. If we were a normal person, we could just fall asleep in a dump.
I just realized that the snails haven't come by in a bit, you know? He hasn't encountered any snails for a bit, but I feel like that's about to change.
Stir to pass the time, but if we stand still for even 5 minutes, we're going to find ourselves at the epicenter of the world's largest snail orgy. And maybe that appeals to you, you poor, sick man.
Oh,
but
why did you have to show me that? I did not need to see that. Like, at all. I did not need to see that. That was horrible. That was horrible. You know those Men in Black memory erasers things? Yeah, I could use one of those right now.
Idea of a fun time.
Oh my,
Therefore, we spent the entire night on the run, and since we can't stay still, I had no opportunities to use the washroom. So, canonically speaking, for the past 9 hours, we've been sloshing around in a stew of our own excrement. This is how you get a bad reputation with the ladies, because they could never understand the necessity of shit-maxing. It's 8:47 p.m.
Are you
I
serious?
haven't slept in days, and I'm subsisting on a diet of street food and caffeine supplies. Heading down Arquette Street, I see a commotion outside, which upon further inspection is the scene of a murder. Phase 2 has begun. For this phase, we will be cutting the number of snails in half, but for each hour that passes, we will double their size and speed, which means that within 4 hours, we could be getting chased through
I think it just got worse.
The streets by...
if they didn't get faster, then, you know, it'd probably be fine if they got big. But since they're gaining speed too, along with their size, I don't think this makes it better than having to deal with a billion small ones. Yeah.
Minivan-sized mollusks. The first doubling event happens in 1 hour at 9:55, so we've got to solve this fast. In between dodging snails, I'm able to use my powers of deduction to logically infer that our victim is dead. Specifically, her brain is in like 55 pieces on the side of the road. Now, I've attacked people with a vast and exciting array of objects before, but you don't get this kind of carnage unless you're using a high-powered rifle. However, I can't find any shell casings, and no one in the area...
What was that? Is that Sam Hyde?
A high-powered rifle. However, I can't find any shell casings, and no one in the area saw anything suspicious. I was ready to leave the crime scene until, partially obscured by the victim's exploded brain, I found a bullet impact point on the ground. The only way the bullet could land here is if the killer fired from an elevated position, and based on the direction of the blood spatter, that shot either came from this rooftop or possibly the apartment complex behind it. Heading to the roof, I find the door was left open. This is unusual. Proceeding through, we follow a trail of size 5 women's footprints all the way to this ledge where we find a single shell casing. And that's not even the best part. It's got a fingerprint. You fucking amateur. We've got all this information by 9:30. A very strong start. From here, we undertake the arduous task of breaking into random people's homes until we find a black market weapons dealer. Because chances are, that's how our killer got their gun. By 9:50, we found one. Scarlet Crafts and Hardware. Usually, they won't let you in unless you know the password. But my password is disabling your security systems while you're taking a shit, and then knocking you out with a beat.
And I think we gotta, and see, we wouldn't need to do this because sometimes, whenever it comes to situations like this in game, we have a certain amendment that helps us get through a password real quickly.
Beer bottle.
Password bypass, if you would.
When you're done with that one simple.
And that's the issue he has right here. Oh well, never mind. It's right there. There you go. Never mind, no issue needed anymore. He has one.
Trick, we were able to gain access to their sales ledger, at which point we found someone with the initials AB purchased a rifle 1 hour before the murder. Much like a porn-sick gooner reading a Zootopia fanfic, I'm getting so close. Unfortunately,
Lovely. That he found a lead, that is, you know, at the pause and go take a shit. Anyway, I'm back.
it's now 9:55, which means the snails get their stats doubled. They're still fairly slow, but they're now the size of dogs, which makes them a lot more obstructive in
actual Gary size now.
close quarters. Sprinting through the streets, we head straight for City Hall, and after scrubbing through the entire phone book, I come back with only 2 people that have the initials AB, Aretha Banks and Amrit Biro, at which point we slip into an empty office and use a code breaker to gain access to the government database. The snails are closing in on our position, so we work fast. By searching each person in the database, we can print off their ID. Then, using my Kaizen V Plus cybernetic upgrade, I'm able to determine the exact size and flavor of each woman's feet just by looking at a photo of them. This
Whoever manufactures tools to do that is going to make a lot of money, sadly.
is not a fetish. It's purely professional.
Why do you have
Point is,
so many pictures in this being shown that I really did not need to see?
only Amrit Biro has a shoe size that matches what we found at the crime scene. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've got our suspect. At this point, we could probably turn in the case. Her prints match, her shoes match, and she bought a rifle 1 hour before.
Where's the fun in that? Whenever you can go up and fuck up her place.
But I feel a morbid curiosity. I need to know why she did it. So we're heading to her apartment at 1301 Hodge Projects to establish a motive. Arriving there, I make myself at home pulverizing her husband's brain and detaining him before knocking her out with an office chair. As I'm searching the apartment, we hit 10:55 p.m. And again, the snails double in size. They're currently climbing up the stairwell like a rising tide of violence. But we're on the 13th floor, so they can go fuck themselves. While investigating, we find out our perp is a member of the police force. We've got ourselves a killer cop. Further evidence indicates she's been stalking our victim, so I just come out and confront her. When asked why she murdered that woman, she explains quite calmly, because I could. At this point, I'm sweating bullets. I stutter, I stammer. What do you mean? To which
that's just someone who's in it just for the love of the game, really.
she clarifies someone had to deal with all the lowlifes in this city. Holy shit, our suspect is cool as
okay, never mind. Yeah. Alright.
hell. I'm in shambles. The virgin detective stands no chance against the Machiavellian vigilante. But enough of that.
Yeah, pretty much. Jesus. I thought they were doing, whenever they said because I could, I thought it was just someone who just doing it just for the love of the game, but nope, they're doing it because, well, one, they could, and for vigilantism. Alright.
It's time to finish this case. By 11:50, we hop on the elevator and sail it right through the eye of the snail tornado. By the time we hit the streets, the snails have doubled yet again.
Great.
Each one of them is now the size and speed of a small elephant on a tricycle. Several of them are also scaling the sides of buildings. This city is overrun. We're forced to take a series of shortcuts and elaborate maneuvers to work our way through the bulk of the swarm. Eventually arriving at City Hall, we grab a case resolution form. But not far behind us marches a dim and endless congress of murderous intent. I rush onto the elevator to make some distance between us, but the snails are now phasing through the building. Desperately breaking into an office, we fire extinguisher the window before jumping onto a ventilation shaft and making our escape. We fill out the last of the paperwork while the snails chase us through the streets. Crime, assassination, motive, vigilantism, sentence, death by bureaucracy. Murder solved, social credit gained. Phase 2 is now over. Now we can indulge ourselves in the exquisite delicacy that is waiting 12 hours for someone else to die. This is its own unique
While also trying not to get murdered by a bunch of murder snails, form
of purgatory.
That are becoming increasingly stronger by hour, and he said 12 hours, so that's gonna be fun.
Because there's only so many times you can do laps around the city before you start feeling like an NPC. In fact, I stopped fighting it, and now I'm full-on role-playing. Every morning, I wake up on a park bench before heading down to my favorite food truck for some coffee. I do not know why, but whenever I order coffee, the guy closes the shutters for 20 seconds, does something to my cup, and then opens them back up. I'm going to be candid. I like my coffee how I like my women, without another man's dick in it. And while I can't prove that Joey the food truck man is burning his cock off every morning just to prank me, I do have my suspicions. After getting caffeinated, I spend the afternoon stealing from local businesses and spying on people through their windows, before eventually collapsing in a pile of garbage. Honestly, when you spend your days like that, 12 hours flies by in no time. Which brings us to 4 p.m. January 4th. We're walking through the streets when suddenly another murder is reported. This time on Sasaki Boulevard. The kaiju phase has begun.
There it is.
For this phase, we're going to consolidate all of our...
Like how in bold they just had fuck. Because how else are you supposed to describe this situation?
medium snails into one single mega snail. 10 times the size, 5 times the speed,
16 times the detail.
and in case you're wondering, yes, the hitbox is accurate. We are now dealing with a skyscraper-sized snail. We make our way to the crime scene and begin investigating. A man was stabbed to death in broad daylight with a box cutter and surrounded by some kind of runic symbols. I do my best to put on a brave
runic symbols? Was this supposed to be like a satanic sacrifice or whatever? Holy shit.
face, but deep in the fearful recesses of my heart, I know that he's out there, and he's coming for us. You see, the most stressful thing about being pursued by a 200-foot-tall snail is not knowing where it is, because at this size, the pathing is highly unpredictable, and I've noticed the snail has a tendency to fly straight into the air and then rapidly descend upon us like a stupid dive bomb.
That's horrifying.
It's very anxiety-inducing.
Yeah, I bet.
Regardless, we do pick up one crucial piece of evidence just before Mega Snail comes around the corner.
What did that say? Did
So
that
we
say
do pick up one crucial piece of evidence.
Let's play and a word you gotta figure out. Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, I think you're, I think the culprit here is a cultist.
Just before Mega Snail comes around
There
the
it
corner.
comes!
Quickly escaping, I open up the note to find it's an anagram.
Yeah.
This is the killer's name, but with all of the letters rearranged. So if we can solve it, we'll pretty much have this case taken care of. However, there's one thing to address. Kaiju Snail is cool as hell. However, after playing with it for 20 minutes, I have realized it is not meant for this world.
Yeah.
In fact, it pretty much can't navigate the map at all without flying through the sky or spending 30 minutes getting stuck in an apartment building. Point is, it's actually way too easy for us to avoid him. And I think you, the viewer, deserves more.
So what? Oh boy.
We're going to reduce his size from 300 to 100.
Okay.
This will allow him to navigate
So we just get ogre-sized snail then, I guess.
the streets more effectively. Furthermore, we'll also buff his move speed from 5 to 6, making him actually faster than us. So if we're not constantly parkouring our asses off, he will catch and kill us. Fortunately, I have developed the ultimate form of parkour, throwing myself off a 19-story building. Please, have some faith. With the snail hot on our heels, we run into the nearest apartment building and jump on the elevator just in time to escape him. All the way at the top floor, we lockpick the door with the underside of our boot to gain access to the apartment, at which point we open up a window. Then we wait. And as soon as the snail works his way up the staircase, we take the express elevator down to ground level. What would normally result in us turning into a fresh coat of sidewalk paint is now a perfectly harmless experience. Because thanks to our Vigor Stability Sync disc, we no longer take fall damage. So by plummeting to the ground at 85 miles per hour, we have managed to create a sizable distance between us and the snail. In testing, I found it takes him about 50 seconds to go up and down the staircase, which means we just have to solve this murder 50 seconds at a time. The key is unscrambling this name puzzle. Now you...
Yeah, this is gonna... This is gonna be quite the annoying case to solve.
Who may be able to look at this letter jumble and divine some kind of arcane knowledge from it, but I cannot. In fact, it may as well be in Cantonese. So we're doing this the hard way. Our suspect's name has 9 letters. Heading to City Hall, we crack open the phone book and begin the painful process of counting the letters in everyone's name in the entire city of 300 people. Then, if the length matches up, we rule out anyone who doesn't have key letters like J, K, and W. I won't lie, this is a pretty brute force method.
Yeah, I mean, it'll work, but it's gonna take some time, and it's gonna be extremely tedious.
Can only get through like 10 names at a time before the snail shows up and we have to practice our cannonball. Fortunately, across the street,
there's the umbrella. I'm Mary Poppins, y'all.
A huge apartment building, and we formed a very nice routine of reading 10 or 12 names, going to the top floor apartment, jumping out the window, and then reading more names.
Wash, rinse, repeat.
This might seem not so bad, maybe even a little convenient, but I want to remind you, just because our legs aren't exploding like tempered glass, doesn't mean this isn't taking a toll on our body. Logically speaking, the repeated abrupt and rapid deceleration of our brain should be giving us what the medical community would describe as a shitload of brain damage. Every time we do this, we're getting
with it when it going up and down like that, you'd think it would.
About one car
video game physics. Hello.
Crash worth of chronic traumatic encephalopathy, and after about a dozen times, I'm quite certain we should be a vegetable. Now, when you hear that, it may be tempting to feel bad for me, but don't. Instead, feel bad for the guy that lived in that apartment, who almost certainly
I don't want to feel bad about him either.
Is going to end up
I'll feel bad for none.
In a mental asylum, because he has witnessed me jump to my death at least 100 times within a 5-hour period. And yet, I always return, like some kind of pudding-brained revenant of self-destruction. Sometimes I beat him up. Sometimes I steal his shit. Sometimes he never even knows I was there until he checks the security tapes. But every time, I'm going out that window. Eventually, our perseverance pays off, and the phone book yields one match. Jay Whitaker. Their address is listed publicly, so it's time to go see how firmly their door is attached to its hinges. As it turns out, not very. We begin examining the apartment, and I'm going to save you the trouble, but just know that I had to jump out the window like 20 times in the process. This yielded a few interesting things. Our suspect is Jaslyn Whitaker, and after reading her emails, I can see that she is horribly addicted to starch cola. In fact, she's consuming 32 cans a day. In case you're unfamiliar, starch cola is basically Coca-Cola before they took away the cocaine. Based on several notes we find,
and she takes like, what did he say, 32 cans of Jesus Christ.
This binge drinking seems to have induced some kind of psychosis, whereby our suspect believes that if they kill enough people, they can resurrect the long-dead CEO of a carbonated drink company. Lastly, comparing the handwriting to the note left at the crime scene, we can see it's a perfect match. Now it's time to arrest this sicko and retire from this nightmare city. According to her work contract, she's a pharmacist. So let's head down to the drugstore and fill a prescription.
And of course the crazies in the health work. As a health worker, or in the health industry, I guess, if that's what pharmacy can be labeled as, I guess. I imagine it could.
For violent street justice. There she is, planning her next murder. I saw no reason to complicate this, so I just went behind the counter and cuffed her. Fair warning, people do not like when you arrest their pharmacist. So we had to spend a few minutes avoiding an angry mob. But after that calmed down, we confronted Jaslyn, at which point she admitted to being involved in a starch cola cult dedicated to taking over the world. And unfortunately for her, she is not nearly hot enough for us to ignore that level of deranged psychosis. So it's time to book her. We grab the paperwork and fill it out while free-falling from the nearest skyscraper. A few minutes pass, and the case comes back solved. With that, we've reached social credit level 5, which means it's time for us to retire and leave this city once and for all. Barely avoiding our stalker, we rush into City Hall and grab a retirement form. To my surprise, this included a last will and testament, and I was in a rush, so I decided to donate all of my worldly possessions to the dead guy from our second case. Then I fill in...
no one gets it then, I guess.
Gibberish and profanity for the last part before handing the papers in. And just like that, the curious case of the snail apocalypse is closed.
Neat.
We're officially retired and waiting for a shuttle to take us to a paradise known as the Fields, where I am almost certain we will be euthanized and our body will be processed into Soylent to feed the proletariat. Truly, retirement has never felt so good.
Clearly,
thank you
I
to this
guess.
month's patrons for supporting the channel, and finally, thank you for watching.
Thank you for making this. This was fun to watch. Alright, well, this was quite the video to watch. So many images I could have gone my whole life without seeing. Alright, well, I'm gonna go ahead and end the video now. I enjoyed it, and I hope you guys did too. And if you did, check out the original, which will be linked in the description, as well as Reggie, who will be linked down below as well in the description. Go check them both out. Go support him for making this wonderful video. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and all that really helps me out, and I appreciate the hell out of it too. And I hope you all have a good day, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.